Welcome to the Endo Belly Girl podcast. I'm your host, Alyssa Chavez. I'm a nutritional therapy practitioner and restorative wellness practitioner on a mission to change the way that we support women with endometriosis. Endo is a full-body disease that impacts your mind, body, and spirit in countless ways that aren't often addressed the way that women truly deserve. We are here to talk about all of it. Please keep in mind that the content of this show has been created for educational purposes only and should never be used as a replacement for medical diagnosis or treatment. Hello and welcome back to the Endo Belly Girl podcast. We are going to be talking about a topic today that I'm super passionate about. I've been wanting to do an episode on this topic for a while, and I kind of plan on just doing a solo episode because I have a lot to say about it just myself. I've done a lot of research and reading and learning along the way about this topic, but then I bumped into a colleague of mine, Crystal, and absolutely loved the information that she was sharing on this topic. I could tell we were very much on the same page and had some similar thoughts and ideas that we feel is very important to share with people. And so I decided to bring her on as a guest so that we can have a little conversation to share with all of you, which I think is just so much more powerful because two heads are always better than one. So today I have for you Crystal Felice, who is a licensed pharmacist and an AFMC certified functional medicine practitioner who specializes in perimenopause and gut health. And she's had a lot of struggles herself with hormones, gut health, anxiety, acne, chronic fatigue, and has really learned that working through all of that naturally was life-changing for her and even caused her to pivot her career from being a pharmacist into this functional medicine practice that she has now. And she now has her own program called Revive and Thrive, which helps women to get to the root causes of their symptoms so that they can actually feel energized, focused, and empowered to thrive again and feel comfortable in their own body, which is fantastic. So if you know anybody who's in that perimenopausal phase and maybe struggling with gut health, I absolutely recommend reaching out to Crystal. She's phenomenal. We are here, though, today to talk all about birth control. And I know this is a hot topic, particularly in the world of endometriosis, because it is a very common tool that doctors use. And I know that people have a lot of opinions on birth control. Now, I am certainly not here, neither is Crystal, to tell anybody whether to take birth control or not. Really what this conversation is about is going into any decision that you make for your body with informed consent, meaning you have all of the facts and knowledge at your disposal before you jump into something like putting a medication in your body. And then if it ends up being something that's you weigh the benefits and the cons and you decide that that's something that's best for you and your body and your unique situation, awesome. More power to you. Absolutely not a speck of judgment. And if you hear all of this information and think to yourself, wow, that's really not something that is worth all of the side effects and nutrient deficiencies and things that we're going to talk about today, great. Then you've made a decision based on the full knowledge of what's out there. Because I think a lot of what we're going to talk about today is just things that should be common knowledge but aren't, especially given that birth control is probably one of the most prescribed medications out there. And I know I was on birth control for about 7 years myself and just realized after coming off of it how little I really knew about the impacts that it had on my body. So we're going to dive into all of that today. I hope that you all get something out of this, that you at least walk out of this conversation knowing a little bit more so that you can feel empowered to take your health into your own hands, because that's what I am here to help you do. Enjoy. All right. Hello, Crystal. Welcome to the show.
Hello.
I can't tell you how excited I am to have you on here today and have the conversation we're about to have. There's
Yes.
so much to dive into. So, thank you so much for being here.
Yes. Thank you so much for having me. This is going to be awesome. I'm excited.
Yeah. I'm excited that we get to connect as well.
Yeah,
So,
I know.
Crystal and I are colleagues and have connected in many ways along the way, kind of gotten to know each other through some groups that we're in and social media and whatnot. But this is the first time we get to really dive in and have a conversation like this.
Yes.
And I know you have so much to share.
So much.
So it's going to be great.
Yes.
All right. Well, I would love if you can start off just by letting us get to know you a little bit. Can you tell us a little bit about who you are, where you came from, a little bit of your story and journey that led you to where you are today?
Sure. So, definitely been a journey for that was a great word for it. So, born and raised in New York, I have a completely different degree in fashion buying and merchandising. So, I have really pivoted my career several times. So, wanted to go and be a pharmacist. So, 7 years of that training, I became a pharmacist and really got to understand how burnt out I was getting really fast. It was really taking a toll on my own health, and then B, I wasn't able to really help people one on one as much as I really wanted. There was just no time to really speak with people, tell them about these side effects, these nutrient deficiencies that are happening from their medications. It's really, and then people would be like, oh, I've been on this for decades. I know everything about it. I'm moving on. So I, wait, my own personal health journey with hormones and gut health. I had hired a functional medicine practitioner. I saw the power in being able to heal things naturally. Within 6 weeks of dedication, I was feeling light years better. And I was like, whoa, like more women need this help. They need to know that this is a possibility, that you're not crazy, that you don't need a medication for every symptom. And I went back to school and got certified in functional medicine and just started practicing and kind of left pharmacy.
Nice. Now, I know that one thing that you are very passionate about that we ended up really connecting on, and what we're going to be talking about really today is education. I know you talked about just medications in general and how they can cause side effects and depletions and things like that.
Mhm.
But I know in particular that you are passionate, very passionate about birth control. So, why is that something that is so important to you?
Yeah, so that's something that I was personally on for 20 years. So that was really what spawned a lot of my side effects. And I wasn't putting two and two together that it was the birth control. So I started seeing some information on Instagram about side effects, and I was like, really? Okay, stuff that I didn't learn as a pharmacist, and actually quite embarrassed that I was like, I didn't even know any of these things. So I started reading books. My favorites were the Period Repair Manual from Laura Briden and Beyond the Pill from Jolene Brighton. So those really opened my eyes to what's going on, that I didn't need to be on the antidepressant and the anxiety med and the pain med, and I wasn't crazy, and that these were real symptoms that were happening from this pill. So, I had started seeing so many young girls getting put on the pill earlier just from their symptoms as a pharmacist. And I was trying to kind of tell them, to be aware, educate yourself, because you don't want to be on it for 20 years like me and not know how to support your body through it. So that's when I became super passionate, realizing that all of these symptoms can really cause some issues down the line.
Yeah. Love it. And especially, this is really why I'm so excited to have you on here today, because I feel like you can really kind of give us some perspective from both sides, right? Because
Mhm.
as a former pharmacist and now a functional medicine practitioner, I feel like you really have a unique perspective that other people might not be as aware of. You can kind of see it from all the angles. So I was wondering if you can start off by talking a little bit about what actually is in birth control, because I think most people, I know I wasn't aware of that
Mhm.
for the years that I was on birth control, how it actually works. And even if you can dig in a little bit to the difference between synthetic and our real natural hormones.
Okay, so yeah, I would turn around. There'd be so many different brands of birth control, and it was kind of hard to keep track of them all. But when it comes down to it, they typically will either be progestin only or have some sort of combination in there. So there'll be some form of estrogen and progesterone, and then some of them are progestin only. So with these birth controls, it's important to know that it isn't helping your hormones. It's not hormone replacement by any means. It is entirely stopping your cycle. And when your period arrives, it's a pill-induced bleed. So these are making sure that you're not ovulating, that there's changes in the cervical mucus so that it inhibits sperm penetration. So it's really just doing its job to make sure you don't get pregnant. So I'm speaking more with these side effects to oral birth control versus an IUD or implant. So I will be forward about that. But all of these are going to have synthetic hormones in them. So these are not to be used as hormone replacement therapy. I've seen some women post-menopause on combo birth control, and that is not what they should be on. This is specifically just to prevent pregnancy. So for the estrogen, you'll typically see something like ethinyl estradiol, and that's going to be a synthetic form versus estradiol, which our body makes. And for progesterone, you may see more like norethindrone or levonorgestrel. Those are going to be progestins. And my problem with that is that progesterone's amazing. Natural progesterone has great effects on calming, for sleep, helps lower our blood pressure, helps lower our cholesterol. We have great hair, same with estrogen. It helps keep our skin just plump and everything going great. But these progestins can actually have an opposite effect. They can cause headaches, they can cause the bloating, the breast tenderness, insomnia, depression, irritability. And these things that they just list as side effects of a birth control pill really is coming because of these synthetic hormones. So when you see more things labeled as bioidentical, it's going to be more just estradiol or progesterone, and it's going to coincide with the same form that our body makes. Sure, they may be made synthetically as a capsule, but progesterone is the form that our body makes, so it's more bioidentical.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I'm so glad you're talking about that, because I know I was on birth control for years. I spent about 7 years on birth control myself, which is relatively short in the grand scheme of things, because I know so many people like you who are on it for 20 years or more, somewhere in that vicinity. But even that is a decent length of time. And through all of that time, nobody ever told me that I was taking synthetic hormones, which I think is nuts. And I think even more importantly, the fact that it actually stops you from having a natural menstrual cycle. And while that may sound great on the surface, like, yay, I don't have to have a real period anymore, especially if you're having a lot of symptoms, like is common with endometriosis in particular, having the really painful periods and all the symptoms that come along with that, sounds great. But you're also shutting down one of your body's natural systems that is very important to our health. And, if you're experiencing symptoms like period pain, what's really important is figuring out why, right? What's actually going on in your body, rather than
they're even considering it like another vital sign. So it's like, it's so important to understand what's going on when I first learned about, oh, my body's ovulating, like, this is cool. Like, I was shocked. The first time that you're ovulating is just wild. And I'm like, this is rad. Like, you can follow your cycle now and know, okay, these symptoms are happening because, okay, estrogen's higher at this point in my cycle. And you can put two and two together. So it's so important to track and understand and be more in tune with your body.
Yeah, I totally agree. I've learned so much about my body since coming off birth control, and obviously digging into the world of health and all the things in general, but your body tells you so much about what's going on. It's very intuitive when we just learn to listen.
Exactly. So true.
Now, one of the things that I know you talk about a lot and has huge impact on so many people is just the side effects and the nutrient depletions that can come along with birth control. I know you've mentioned a couple of things already, but can you kind of take a little dive and unpack that a little bit, and then talk to us about what that really entails, what some of those common side effects and nutrient depletions can look like?
Yeah, so a lot of those side effects are the synthetic hormones, but then other people don't realize that it's also doing a big job with depleting our nutrients in our body. So it takes a lot for our body to actually help prevent the pregnancy. To help these hormones along, our body is still metabolizing things. It's still going through the liver. It's still breaking down in our body. And with that, all of these processes require nutrients to help get through them. So, a lot of times, especially B6 is a big one, and a lot of our B vitamins are depleted with birth control. And we can see a lot of anxiety and depression, which is what I personally was going through. So, you often see women down the line look for an antidepressant, look for an anxiety med to help them along, not putting two and two together. Another one that I had was heart palpitations and an irregular heartbeat. I did not put two and two together. That was from any sort of thing with my birth control. And sure enough, magnesium and CoQ10 is a great antioxidant for us. And magnesium is needed for every single process in the body, and it was being depleted. So then you have things like zinc. Zinc is great for our immune system. It's great for our skin. So you can see weak nails, you can see acne, insomnia, thyroid issues. You can even see the beginnings of insulin resistance when you're depleted in zinc. Magnesium, you can also get some muscle cramps, fatigue, restless leg, constipation. So I'd often see women come in and be put on sleep meds just to help sleep, not putting two and two together, because with this process, it does take a toll on the gut. And we make most of our serotonin in our gut. So it needs a lot of B vitamins, and that's being depleted from the birth control. We don't have it to make that serotonin. And then we make melatonin from our serotonin. So it's just a downstream effect that, okay, now I'm getting depressed. Okay, now I can't sleep. And lo and behold, it's a medication that's causing these depletions.
Yeah.
It's wild.
There's so many, right? I love
Wild.
all those different little connections you're making. And this is where I think that the nutrition side of things, like we think of nutrients as being like, oh, I don't know, it's great to have the protein in your body.
Right.
And, I think a lot of us have kind of this, I know this was me before I got into this whole world that I'm in now. It's like we have a vague sense of understanding that we need nutrients, but when you hear it that way of kind of that domino effect, right? If you're missing this one nutrient, then your body can't do this, and if your body can't do this, then you can't do that, and you can't produce the hormones that we need and the processes that our body goes through each and every day. And so you realize the widespread effects that it has, because gosh, it's so interesting. Things like heart palpitations. I would have never thought to relate that to the birth control pill. That just seems like such a crazy connection to make. You think it's related to, your stress, or there's something wrong with your heart or something weird like that, when it can just be related to the nutrients that are being depleted. It's so interesting.
Yeah, it's so wild.
It is. Well, thank you for sharing all of that.
Yeah.
Now, of course, at the end of the day, we're not here to tell anybody whether you should or shouldn't be on birth control, right? That's a decision that should be made by each individual and along with you and your doctor. But I know there is a certain percentage of the population, and I know this is something that I hear a lot from clients that I work with and just people I have conversations with who maybe want to come off birth control but have been afraid to. I know I've talked to people before who have maybe come off birth control in the past and had a really horrible experience with it. Maybe their symptoms just flared up and they couldn't handle that influx of crazy symptoms happening in their body from going off birth control. But I know, and you can certainly speak even a lot more to this, that there's a lot that we can do to help to support our bodies, both before you stop taking birth control cold turkey, right? And even along the way after you stop taking birth control, to help to support your body in that process to help to avoid feeling worse.
Yeah, absolutely.
So can you share a little bit about that?
Yeah, it's so important to know that when you're put on birth control, if it's for something that's besides preventing pregnancy, it's really just a Band-Aid. Our bodies are so smart, and they will remember why you were put on that pill. So for me, I was put on it in middle school because I had acne. And sure enough, I come off of it. I'm feeling great. 3 months later, I have cystic acne over the bottom portion and my chin and my jawline. And I was like, what is happening? This cannot happen in my 30s. So I came off of it cold turkey because I was just like, I'm done with this. But I do not recommend people
Yeah.
coming off of it cold turkey. Our bodies need that support, especially because many women are coming off of birth control because they want to get pregnant. So they need to realize that the body needs at least 3 months of solid support before trying. You need to get these nutrient levels back up. So I think it's really important to educate yourself first and foremost. Don't put yourself down for being put on the pill. That's something that I did. I was like, I can't believe I did this to myself for all those years. But you know what? It got me through what I needed to get through. It got me through school without being pregnant, So getting that education, and it empowers you too. So that gives you, that education is going to allow you to go to your doctor, give them what you've learned, and say, I want to start coming off of this pill, so that you can work on supporting your body. So what's going to be really important is supporting the detox pathways. So that's going to be things like sweating really good, making sure you're working out, exercising, sauna, get that sweat out, make sure you're pooping well. People don't realize that, if they're pooping once a week, they think that's great. No, we need to at least be pooping once a day. This is how you're going to get rid of excess hormones. We need to take care of our gut. So for me personally, it had led to leaky gut, and then that caused a whole bunch of downstream issues. I had the beginnings of fatty liver, and I was like, how? I take care of myself. I don't drink. Are you kidding me? So learned about non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. So I had all these issues, and our body definitely needs that support. So we want to support our natural antioxidant, which is called glutathione. So this guy is amazing. It's going to help everything. And it's reliant on selenium and zinc, which unfortunately is depleted from the pill. So I always love to start with, food as medicine. So you can have some avocados, asparagus, spinach, broccoli sprouts are amazing for hormones. Turmeric is great. And then you want to have some magnesium rich foods. So green leafy veggies, cruciferous veggies, also great for thyroid, bananas, sweet potatoes, just getting those healthy fats in there too, like avocado and salmon. If you do want to support magnesium even more, magnesium glycinate is a great form to just get all body help with. Zinc rich foods like pumpkin seeds, beef, cashews, chickpeas, chicken, spinach, all of these are going to really support the body. Just getting some of these whole foods in there. Magnesium is always a great supplement, but people also need to realize that if this did take a toll on the gut, you can have issues with absorption of supplements. So while supplements are great, they are a supplement. And I've heard you say that too.
Yes.
So it is just to supplement your life and your diet and your lifestyle. So sometimes going more with a powder form. So I have a magnesium glycinate powder form I'll use that can help with getting the absorption in if you do suspect that there's some gut issues going on and you might not be absorbing the vitamins that you're taking. When people are put on birth control for the first time, I will recommend like a good quality multivitamin at least to help. And then mention that it's so important to be supporting the body with natural whole foods. And then I love to support the liver with castor oil packs. That's really what helped me once I came off of the pill, and helping to kind of help my liver with detox pathways and processes, and kind of getting all the gunk out and making sure that it can further process things. Because if it's already getting bogged down, putting more supplements and stuff in there is not going to help things, because it's just going to take more of a toll on the liver. So yeah, I love doing the castor oil packs, or some milk thistle, dandelion root, herb teas are another great way to just naturally support the liver.
Nice. Yeah. And personally, I find it very empowering to know that there is so much that we can do to support our bodies, in replenishing, there's the word I'm looking for,
yes.
replenishing those nutrients that may have been depleted, supporting the detoxification pathways, just knowing that there's things that we can do to avoid those, symptoms coming back with a vengeance, which I know that was my
Absolutely.
experience too, right?
Right?
Going on birth control, feeling like, oh, yay, breezing through for those years and then coming off and going, what is happening in my
Right.
body? I know
Yes.
that's so common. And I
Yes.
think really plays into the fear that a lot of people have in coming
Mm-hmm.
off of birth control, which I completely understand,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah.
And, I think especially with endometriosis, this is where, I mean, it's not my place to tell anyone to come off birth control anyway,
Yeah.
but even if it were, it wouldn't be my go-to thing to tell everybody you need to come off birth control, because
Right.
there's a lot there's a lot that factors into that decision, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's, first of all, is your body able to support not being off birth control? Or, that may take some
Right.
time to be able to
Mm-hmm.
even support that naturally. Looking at, the pros and cons of everything and,
Absolutely.
what your symptoms are looking like when you're not on it compared to when you are. I mean, there's so many things to factor in, but for me, and I know that this is something that's really important for you as well, is
Mm-hmm.
just going into it with that informed consent. And that's
Yes.
something that I'm very passionate about as well,
Mm-hmm.
because that's, in my opinion, a large part of the issue with birth control is that so many of us are just given birth control telling us
Mm-hmm.
that it's going to solve all of our problems.
Yes. Yes.
And,
Seriously.
not really knowing or understanding what that medication is doing, not understanding that there are synthetic hormones involved, that our natural cycles are being shut down completely, that our bodies are being depleted from these essential nutrients that we need. I mean, there's so many things that we're just not told when we're in the doctor's office. So, yeah, thank you
Yeah.
for sharing all of that.
Yeah. And as a pharmacist, we were trained to also, you can get extra training to prescribe birth control. So I was like, yeah, I want to do this for women. And then I learned more and more, and I was like, oh, I don't really feel comfortable doing this now because, you're not allowed to tell people diet and nutrition things, as
Yeah.
a pharmacist, which is just ridiculous, but that's besides the point. But I was just like, a lot of girls were going on it because they were in pain. And I was just like, oh, that's really, I'm all for people getting some rapid relief, but I also think that education needs to be there in what this is doing to your body, in the meantime.
Yeah, I totally agree. Yeah. Now, we've talked about a lot of things today, from just what birth control actually is to all the side effects and nutrient depletions and how to support your body in coming off of birth control. Is there anything else that you feel like we missed that is just really important for people to know to go into these decisions feeling well informed about how this works in your body, or just anything that you feel like you want to share on that topic?
Yeah, definitely want to reiterate that I'm not against birth control at all. It did help me greatly, and I know it helps many women out there. But the education part is just really what I want to get out there, just so they know what's going on, what's happening to their body. And as you spoke on the episode with your husband, just involving your partner is so important too,
Mm.
because they may not know that you are going through all of these things, and you may feel crazy. They may think you're crazy and just hormonal when it could just be these nutrient deficiencies. So I had doctors just telling me, oh, you're on the pill, like your hormones are fine. It can't be your hormones. You're on the pill. So everything is fine. Here's some ibuprofen, you must just be really stressed out. So women are just often very dismissed with these things. And that's why this education really needs to get out there, and just educating yourself is so important. So I love that you're putting this podcast out there, getting this information out so that people can feel empowered to talk to their doctor and say, hey, no, I read these studies, I read this book. I know that this can deplete all of these nutrients. And I feel like this is happening to me. I want to get off of it. I want to learn when I'm ovulating and start tracking what's going on in my body and learn about my own body's hormones, which I think is so powerful. Just knowing what's going on in your body, just to be able to tell your partner, hey, my period's coming. Things might get a little crazy in the next week,
Yeah.
just letting and then it was really funny because my period had ended, and the next day I was like, I feel so great. And my boyfriend's like, oh, like what happened? What was different? And I was like, my period's over. Like, I feel
Right.
great. Like, That's done. So it's just, letting them know what's going on. Maybe you're a little moody and just be like, I just don't feel right. And I'm educating myself on the birth control pill. And, this might be something I want to come off of, and get them on board too. Let them know, educate them as well. A lot of people think partners don't need to be involved, especially, if it's man and they don't need to be involved. They don't want to know any of this stuff. And that's not true. They care about us. So, they're with you for a reason. So they care about you. They love you. They want to know what you're going through as well. So it's just really important to get them on board and get that education for both of you.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. And, it's so funny because I remember my husband and I have been together a long time now.
Yes.
We've been in a relationship for about 14, going on 15 years. That's crazy. I don't feel old enough to have been in a relationship that long. But anyway, I remember early on in our relationship, he was talking about, because he'd been in some, longer term relationships before, but none of them had any, major things going on with their cycles I was starting to. And anyway, I remember him talking about when he was younger, because he grew up mostly with brothers. He has 5 brothers and 1 sister. Oh, wow. So he did, and with a single mom. So it was just his sister and his mom were the only women in the household. And he goes, I never knew when anyone was on their period. They didn't talk about it, like just culturally, family, it wasn't something that was ever discussed or talked about. So even though he grew up with women in his household, he knew next to nothing about menstrual cycles or birth control or any of that. And now he knows probably way more than he ever wanted to. But honestly, I at least what he tells me is that he likes, I don't know, feeling included in the conversation, feeling like he's understanding at least a little better what's going on in my body. Of course, he's never had a uterus before. He can't really understand what this feels like, because you and I know that the hormonal fluctuations that men go through are vastly different from the hormonal fluctuations that women go through. I mean, their testosterone changes throughout the course of the day, and that's about it. Like, it's so
they can wake up the next day and be totally fine.
Right. Totally. Whereas, like you said, we have hormonal fluctuations all throughout the month. I've seen somewhere out there, I saw a meme that it was like Cinderella in rags, all sad looking. And it was like me on my period. And then it had the Cinderella transforming into the ball gown, and it was me the day after my period ends, kind of what you were saying. And I think so many of us can relate to that.
The birds are chirping.
Right? Exactly. And it totally feels that way, right? When you're coming out of that, it's like, oh, the birds are singing again, the sun is out. Like, it's a total transformation that happens in our bodies. It's so fascinating. But I really was loving what you were saying about learning about our own bodies and being intuitive, because I think culturally we're almost taught to kind of squash that down. And I know some of that can come from doctor's visits where maybe we're dismissed. There's some gaslighting going on. And I think a lot of it comes just from cultural norms too, right? That the whole like, oh, you shouldn't have to miss work or school because of your period, when actually it's very common that happens. I remember feeling a lot of kind of shame and guilt around that previously, sometimes I still do. If things like that come up, because it's just so, the way it's talked about in our society is like, well, kind of just suck it up, buttercup, and get on with your life. But the more that we're able to really tune in and understand our bodies, and like you said, just how to understand when your body's ovulating and what that feels like, and how your body's changing during that time. And when you're, leading into the days coming up onto your period and during your period. I mean, there's so many things that go on in our bodies. And the more that we can have understanding of that, I think the more that we can have compassion for ourselves can be a huge thing. Absolutely. We can help those around us to be able to understand and have, some compassion or empathy to what we're going through. And just that can make a huge difference in the quality of our lives. It's so much more than just walking into a doctor's office, walking out with a prescription of some kind or another, and not really understanding the ins and outs of what's happening in our bodies.
Yeah, and many women, they confide in their gynecologist thinking,
Mm-hmm.
this is somebody who helps women all the time. They should know everything about hormones. And honestly, unfortunately, not all of these doctors are trained really well in hormones and in knowing the differences and how, if you're in perimenopause, your progesterone's starting to decline, your estrogen's going wonky. They might not know these things. And for me, I had 3-day migraines consistently before my period every month. And they were like, oh, you're okay. Like, here's just some ibuprofen. I'm like, no, something's wrong. I shouldn't have debilitating migraines for 3 days and then it stops and I feel fine after. So, it's really important to also be aware of your symptoms. I was on the pill and getting those. So be aware that something's wrong, something's not right. And I want to get this checked out. And just being your own advocate is what I try to help teach everybody, because doctors are not out there, unfortunately, to be your best friend and help you figure out what's going on. Many of them are so bogged down. They're trying to see as many patients as they can and help as many people, but they just don't have the time, unfortunately. So I'm thankful to see practitioners like us coming out there and supporting people, giving them that time, giving them that hour-long consult that they need, or whatever is needed, just to have them speak about their symptoms and let them know that there is help. You're not crazy and that we're here to help in conjunction with your doctor, of course. But, they don't have the time or some of the education that we've been able to kind of put in when it comes to hormones.
Yeah. Yeah, agreed. It's just a different way of working, a different way of thinking, right? And I'm a big advocate for, everything has its time and its place.
Yes.
There are definitely aspects of Western medicine that I can't offer, don't want to offer. Like when it comes to endometriosis, for example,
your
having
surgery. Yeah,
is very common. I would never want to attempt that. No. Honestly, even if I had the training, the many years of training that goes into that, just not something that interests me at all, going into a room with surgery. And so there's a lot that you can take from both worlds. It's just a matter of figuring out where your body needs support, what type of support you need, how to find the best balance between the two. I actually even did an episode on that a while back. Maybe I can link to that in the show notes.
Definitely.
On just finding the balance between Western medicine and finding a holistic approach, because I definitely think that the two can be blended. It's not a one or the other type of decision. Honestly, I think these days, certainly not in every case, but I found that a lot of doctors these days are very open to their patients also getting some sort of holistic support or another. I've been seeing more and more of like fertility doctors, for example, working with acupuncturists and, OBGYNs working with nutritionists. Like there's been a lot of more crossover happening, which I think is really cool, because
that's awesome.
Everybody has something to offer. I really believe that most doctors, I'm sure there are exceptions to everything, but I think that most doctors went into their field because they wanted to help people. It's just that the way that they're trained and the amount of patients that they're seeing, it creates some limitations along the way. And I think that's where the holistic support can come in as well, to, like you said, because you and I, we sit down with clients for, like, my initial consults are 90 minutes, follow-ups are 30 minutes to an hour. Like we're spending a lot of time with people and spending time in between doing research and building out protocols and all the things that's entailed. And, but we have the luxury of having the time and space to be able to do that. So anyway,
absolutely.
Just a lot of considerations to be had, but
definitely.
I hope that everybody was able to get some wonderful little nuggets, at the very least, being able to have more information at hand when you're considering, whether or not birth control is the right option for you to either start or continue or go back to in the future, or wherever you are along your journey. I hope that this episode is helpful for you in making the best decisions possible for your own body and having all of the information at hand to help you with that decision. That's really what I want people to get out of this episode
Yes,
more than anything.
absolutely. Absolutely.
All right, Crystal, is there anything else that you wanted to add today?
Oh, I think we touched upon a lot. But yeah, I think we got it. I was just really wanted to get that education out there, especially since there's a lot more information now with people are seeing bioidentical hormones and they're like, what is bioidentical? I'm already on the pill. So getting that information out there is really going to help people kind of decipher what's going on and learning as they go forward that they need to switch to maybe some bioidentical hormone replacement and not be on the pill for their hormonal needs.
Yeah, agreed. All right. Well, I'm sure that after hearing this episode, people are going to want to learn more about you, connect with you, find you in some fashion or another. So can you tell us where we can do that, where we can find you?
Yeah. So I'm on Instagram. I post a lot on there. So I'm functional.health, and I spell functional PHUNCTIONAL to just lump in the pharmacy there. And my website's linked on there. They can book a consult call. My consults are free, and we can just chat about what's going on and how I can help you and if you're a good fit for my program. And I'm also on Facebook and TikTok, but just not too often. But I'm always open to DMs for questions and consults if they want to sign on with me.
Perfect. Well, I will be sure to link to all of that in the show notes. So if you're like me and you're always multitasking while you listen to podcasts, don't worry about trying to find a scrap of paper to scribble that down. You can find that in the show notes and go and connect with Crystal.
Awesome.
All right. Well, thank you so much for being here and joining me today. I absolutely love this conversation and everything about it. I've been wanting to do an episode like this for quite some time, and it just was like serendipitous that we ended up connecting on this and being able to get this out to the world. So thank you so much.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. This was awesome.
All right. Well, everybody have a wonderful day, and we'll talk soon.
Bye.
Thank you so much for joining me today. If you loved what you heard, be sure to leave a review, share with a friend, and subscribe so you can keep coming back for more. If you are ready to take the next step toward getting to the root of your endo symptoms like endobelly, pain, fatigue, and so much more, you need to take my Endo Reset free course. You can find the link in the show notes or at www.endobellygirl.com. Till next time, my friend.